Hey everyone, I'm Tofa. In this video, I'll be breaking down the top 10 common network ports and their vulnerabilities as well. If you're learning cybersecurity or you're curious about cybersecurity, then you need to watch this video, okay? So without much talking, let's start by getting to know what a port is, okay? Now, what is a port and why does it matter? A port simply is a door in a network, okay? A door that leads to what? To systems. So each service, whether it's a web service or an email service or a file sharing service, definitely uses a port. All right, so let's use our house for example. Okay, our house can signify an IP address, and then those doors can signify the port, right? So we have a bathroom door that leads you to the bathroom, a kitchen door that leads you to the kitchen as well. So every door or every port has a specific service, whether it's for whether it's a web service or an email service or a file sharing service, which we are going to talk more about that in this video. The major importance of ports is because hackers normally scan them for what? For weaknesses. The second stage of ethical hacking is scanning an enumeration, whereby a hacker would scan an IP address, right, for ports. Now, those ports he's scanning for may have a vulnerability, right, a generic vulnerability, or maybe an outdated software, right? So, but it's definitely essential for a hacker to, scan an IP address first to discover open ports that may lead to what vulnerability. They are the doors that what leads to the system. Okay, so we are going to start by going to the first port, which is FTP. Okay, FTP stands for File Transfer Protocol, right? And it's just for transferring files within a network. Okay, so the vulnerabilities that come with FTP are plain text logging and also anonymous access. So sometimes when you definitely do some nmap scan and you can see, especially when you run with -A switch that scan aggressively, it will definitely pinpoint if this FTP has anonymous access. So if it has anonymous access, it simply means that you should just log in with anonymous as a password and anonymous as the username, or anonymous as the username and the password should be blank. Okay, so that is definitely a vulnerability. So next on our list, we have SSH and we also have telnet. Okay, SSH and telnet are next on our list, which is port 22 and port 23. Okay, now SSH is a secure remote login. Okay, it stands for secure share. It allows you to connect to a remote device through a shell. Okay, securely, by the way. The vulnerabilities of SSH, unfortunately, isn't through outdated software. Okay, it's normally through brute forcing. Okay, so you need some sort of credential like a username or a password um before you can exploit SSH. Okay, so you need to brute force, or it has the vulnerabilities include brute forcing or either weak keys for password. On the next port, we have telnet, which is an outdated and insecure means of remote login as well. The vulnerabilities of this telnet is unencrypted, definitely unencrypted, and also sniffing. Okay, you can definitely sniff around and capture some packets and capture some credentials as well in plain text. You'd be surprised. So port 23 is now outdated. Port 22 is still currently active. Okay, so also take note that SSH does not only exist on port 22, it also exists in port quad 2, whereby you have 2222, right? Next on our list, we have the web services now, okay? We have the web services whereby we have to talk about the HTTP and the HTTPS. And as you can see on my screen, you can definitely pinpoint that HTTP has like port 80, port 8080, port 8081, and it's not just restricted to just this port, okay? Whereby we have HTTPS, which have some ports like 443 and 8443. Now, what are the difference between HTTP and HTTPS? From the diagram here, you can see that the HTTPS is having a green signal or telling you that it's secured. So that means that the website is a secured website. So for the HTTP, definitely not secured, right? Is unencrypted web traffic. The vulnerabilities that exist in HTTP include man-in-the-middle attack, whereas for HTTPS, you can see weak ciphers or some certificate misconfigurations. Next, we have the ports that has to do with the emails, the sending and receiving of emails. We have port 25, which has to do with SMTP. We have port 110, which starts for POP3, and port 143 that has to do with IMAP. Okay, so the vulnerabilities that come with these ports are email related. For instance, spam relays or phishing, right? Or weak authentication. Next on our list, we have the RDP. So if you don't know what an RDP is, it stands for Remote Desktop Protocol. And RDP allows you to connect remotely to your Windows machine. As you can see here, you can just see that from the diagram over here, this Remote Desktop Protocol, I'm trying to connect by inputting my IP address first of all, and then I can input my username and then my password. Okay, so this should not be a new thing. You definitely should have seen this somewhere from your computer. But if you haven't, you can just go over to your start bar and type in remote desktop connection to, connect to your RDP. The vulnerabilities of this RDP is brute force. Definitely, it has a login page, so it's definitely vulnerable to what brute forcing from attackers. Ransomware is another vulnerability, as well as unauthorized login, which is hacking, right? Next, we have the SMB right? We have the word SMB. So SMB has to do with file and printer sharing on a Windows system, okay? It has to do with sharing files or sharing printer or sharing network resources, right? So the vulnerabilities that come with SMB, SMB does not just exist in 445, by the way, it also exists in 139. So the vulnerabilities that come with SMB includes WannaCry. I don't know if you heard about WannaCry. It's a vulnerability that exists, I think, about some few years ago that has to do with SMB and printers. There's also internal blue, which has to do with MS 17010. I remember from the try hack mail, right? I was just thinking it's like, right? I was just thinking about it. So MS 17010, internal blue, right? So in case you don't know about this, I also have a walkthrough video for this internal blue, and you can just see that. I don't know if that's going to work, but you can see it up there, right? So next on our list, we have a very important port for Active Directory authentication, which is LDAP and LDAP. So the LDAP, as you can tell, isn't secured compared to LDAPs, and it all has to do with what authentication in an Active Directory. So the vulnerabilities here is injection attacks, weak certificate, and also misconfigurations. You can use a tool called LDAP domain, extract information in an Active Directory environment. So it's a very important port for hackers as well. Okay. Okay, guys. So that's a wrap. That concludes the top 10 common ports and their vulnerabilities as well. Okay. So these ports are often the hackers' juiciest items, the low-hanging fruit. So for me as a hacker, whenever I'm trying to hack and I see those ports, I definitely go into them first of all before any other ports, right? So if you have this port enabled to strengthen your network, you can definitely use this checklist on my screen. Either you close the unused port that you are definitely not using, or you enable some firewalls, or use strong credentials, which everybody will tell you to use. So strong credential doesn't definitely mean just the length, but it should be what complex as well, okay? And yes, last but not the least, regular patching. Always update your software, guys. Cheers and peace out. I hope you've learned something from this. If you haven't, tell me what next to do, okay?